Well, this here is the MG Hector, and this car truly has taken the SUV buyer's imagination by storm. It comes loaded with equipment which some cars in its segment don't even offer as options, and it also has a very large and roomy cabin. Essentially, it's a huge SUV for the price of a compact or for the price of a mid-size SUV. And I'll show you this car around today and tell you why you should consider this car in your shortlist and consider it on the top of your shortlist. In fact, if you're in the market for a large size SUV which comes at a relatively affordable price. Let's get started. Well, so here I'm inside the cabin of the MG Hector, and I have to say that this is the place to be if you call yourself a technological buff. Yes, if you are someone who lives for technology, who's completely nuts about tech, then this is the car to be in. Your highlight or the center showpiece is this huge touchscreen, which is placed like this. It's not placed like this in a horizontal mode like in other cars. It's placed vertically, and this gives it a very iPad-like feel. It feels as easy to operate as an Apple iPad, and you can do a host of things via this big screen. And it's also a connected car. Remember, this car is an internet inside car. That's what MG Motors calls it, and it's a connected car, which means that you can run a lot of apps, run a lot of features of this car via your mobile phone. There's an iSmart app which you can download, and you can start your car, you can switch it off, you can even change the temperature settings as well as the station on the radio by simply using that app. And of course, the feature highlight of the car is this. Hello MG.
I'm listening.
Please open the sunroof. This of course is the highlight package. It's the coolest party trick you'll find on any car at this price point. If you want to impress your friends at a party, just call them inside the car. Just tell them, नीचे आ जाओ balcony से तुम्हें गाड़ी दिखानी है, and show them these features. And I'm sure that their friendship with you will really blossom. In fact, on the contrary, they might start feeling very jealous with you. So it's better not to show them all those features in your car. It's better to show them this video and tell them what this car has to offer. Well, so here I'm in the back seat of the MG Hector, and I have to say it's a very impressive place to be in. There's huge amounts of legroom on offer. Now remember, my height for reference is 5'10", and I always adjust the front seat for my height and my driving position. So if your chauffeur is also about 5'10" or maybe even 5'11", you have acres of knee room, loads of headroom, and even if you are about 6 or 6'1" or even 6'2", if you're a tall occupant,
I can
even
make
then,
phone calls for you, but you may need to pay your phone first.
well, that's something that might happen once in a while if you're having a chat with your friend and you say some word. It might trigger off the lady in the car, but that's something which happens with even other ladies in your family. They always have to tell you something when you're saying something and try and shut you off. But that's a joke. Don't write in the comments that I'm against my wife and stuff like that, because I'm not. It's something which might get me in trouble at home. So let me just tell you about the car again. In terms of the overall comfort, it's a great car. The knee and hip angle is also at a nice 90 degree. The seats also are very well cushioned, and you can also incline or recline them depending on the kind of luggage you have at the back, and it goes all the way at the back as well. So it is a great car overall for comfort, as I just said. And the best part is you get a completely flat floor over here, so whoever's sitting in the middle has plenty of place to stretch his feet. There's a place also where you can keep your cell phone, a 5-volt charging point, and your own AC vents at the back, and of course nice and large windows, so you can really sit here like the boss without thinking about any troubles and without thinking about anyone interfering with your chat. Now let's see how good the boot on the Hector is. Well, the boot on the MG Hector is a massive 587 liters. It's a very well shaped boot. There's absolutely minimal intrusion from the loading lip, and if you want to take this car for those airport transfers, it's a great car. But it's also a great car if you want to shift your entire home in, because if you drop the back seats down, the backrest of the back seats down, this car has a massive loading area. And being a very premium SUV, you also get a power tailgate, which means that you don't have to use your hands to shut it down. So overall, I'll give this car 10 out of 10 in the boot department. It's the best car in this segment, or across any segment for sheer boot capacity. Well, so here I am driving the MG Hector, and this car comes with a 1500 petrol as well as a 2-liter diesel. Now the petrol is a 1500 cc unit, as I just said, and the diesel one is the same one which also comes in the Jeep Compass as well as the Tata Harrier, and this one makes the same amount of power that the Jeep Compass also makes, 170 bhp. And you can have the petrol in automatic. It's a DCT dual clutch, but the diesel doesn't get an automatic at the moment. It only comes in manual. So if you want an automatic, you'll just have to go with the petrol. Now the petrol engine does feel good for the city. The highlights of the engine, of course, are in the fact that it's a very, very refined engine. It feels very quiet inside, and even when you rev it hard, there's minimal noise which enters the cabin. But that said, it doesn't feel very powerful on the highway, and it definitely runs out of breath when you want to push it on the highway with the full complement of passengers on board. So if you want a car for those occasional highway trips as well as for running up the hills on a regular basis, then I would suggest that you simply stick with the diesel, because as I just said, the petrol is slightly underwhelming in the power delivery on the highway. Now, no matter which engine you choose, you might choose the petrol or you might choose the diesel, the steering wheel on both versions of the car is really light, and it is a very good steering wheel for people who drive a lot in the city, because it will not tire you out. It's a steering wheel which is overtly light, as I just said, and this light steering wheel is something that buyers who drive a lot in the city will truly appreciate and will really like, because it's something which will not tire them out. What you'll also like is the excellent visibility all across. You get this huge mirror and you can see nicely what's coming behind you. The side view mirrors are also nice and chunky, so it's the perfect size side view mirror as well. You get a good view of whatever's happening behind you, and as I just said, visibility is excellent all across the cab. Now the suspension setup of the MG Hector is slightly on the softer side, so if you do take it on the highway, sometimes on those badly pastured roads, it might just, pitch around a bit. It's not that it's uncomfortable, but it's just not as stable or as rock solid as maybe a Harrier or a Jeep Compass is. That said, in the city, because it is a softly sprung suspension, it offers you a very nice and pliant ride. It'll soak in all the bumps, it'll soak in all those potholes, it'll soak in all those rumble strips, all those expansion joints. And for people who primarily drive in the city, the suspension is really good. On the highway also it's good, but as I just said, sometimes it just tends to pitch around a bit and bob around a bit if you take it where those expansion joints are more prominent than other places. Now, talking about the manual gearbox on the car, the diesel engine which comes, as I just said, is shared with the Jeep Compass and the Harrier. So the gearbox also is of similar pattern. It isn't a very light gearbox to use, and it's also not the smoothest in the business. It's just at par with the Harrier and with the Jeep Compass, because it is essentially the same unit. So you can't really choose between either of these cars in terms of the gearbox. They're all the same, and also the clutch is just as heavy or just as light as it is on the Jeep Compass. So yes, that's something that you'll have to note before you buy the diesel version of the car. And as I just said, in terms of refinement also, it's at par with the Compass. It's better than the Harrier for sure, but in terms of diesel refinement, it's at par with the Jeep Compass. Now, in terms of the dual clutch automatic, I have to say that it's a decent gearbox, and it is decent in terms of the shifts. It's not the quickest responding gearbox, and neither is it the slowest one, but it just does its job well. It does what you ask of it. Now, in terms of overall agility, because this car is a big and heavy SUV, and also remember it's softly sprung, it has a very soft suspension setup, it's not the most agile SUV in the market. But that said, no buyer who buys an SUV buys it because of its agility or because of a need for speed or to take it to the racetrack and pelt it around corners. People who buy these cars buy them more for their looks on the outside, for the image, as well as for these high set seats which give them great road presence. In all those departments, the Hector truly does win. So if you are someone who wants to push his car into corners on those hilly sections, and you decide to do this and this, also be prepared to roll around a bit inside the car's seats. And when you're pushing it like this, you might just move around with the seats. It does have a little bit of roll, but what I'm just trying to say is a bit of a joke. What I'm trying to say is that people who buy these cars buy them for their sensible nature. So if you drive sensibly, it'll reward you, because it is a very nice and sensible package overall. Overall, the Hector comes across as a very strong all-rounder. In fact, think of it as a premium large-size SUV for the price of a mid-size SUV. It is that good in terms of pricing, in terms of features, in terms of space, and overall in terms of its comfort.